Good morning, everyone. I'm the Credo coordinator, and I'm pleased to be able to introduce to you Tom Bowers today. Tom has been a member of our church for 20 years, and during that time, he's done lots of volunteer things and served on lots of committees and teams, and specifically the congregational care team and the membership team are just two of the many things he's done for us. And you may have seen him ushering as well. So I want to turn things over to Tom because he's the one you want to hear from. So Tom, thank you.
Thank you, Carol, and good morning. And thanks for coming to hear what I give my heart to. I appreciate questions if you use the chat and write them in. And at the end of my presentation, I will try and answer those as best I can in the order that I receive them. What does Tommy Bowers give his heart to? And how has it worked out? Anyone who marries 3 times is either insane or impossible. Gail Sheehy, in her book Passages, describes 3 stages of married life. And I'm going to use that because it fits so well my own 3 marriages. Stage 1, finishing education and finding and starting a job and a career. I was a switchman for Bell Telephone, PA, going to night school at LaSalle in personnel management. She was at a Catholic college doing psychological assessments for insurance agents. We met at a dance. We spent every weekend together with a mutual friend. We were married. This is number 1, stage 1. When I complained that it wasn't my idea of a marriage, she left that night with my best friend. She was a college. We met at a friend's on New Year's Eve, number 2, stage 2. And she was a college grad and a home ec teacher who recently gave her first child up to adoption. 3 months later, we were married and we're at grad school, still friends with number 1 and best friend. Until number 2 decided that her migraine headaches were because of my former friends and put an end to it. Stage 2 is the stage one settles into a career and starts a family. We had a son, a daughter, 27 months apart. Being a fan of B.F. Skinner and positive reinforcement, my daughter, at a tender age, taught me that while she appreciated my compliments, she said, please don't do it in front of her brother. The downside. Son, 27 months older, would hit on daughter, and I would hit on son. Number 2 said, let's try something else. I don't think that's working. And even though we both had college and graduate school degrees in sociology and psychology, we decided to try systematic training for effective parenting, or how to raise responsible children by way of choices and consequences. While preparing for an evening session, son, aged about 6, asked where we were going. We said, we're going to parenting class. And he disarmingly replied, I don't know why. You're not getting any better. He is currently a dad of 2 children. After 20 years of marriage and 1 year of personal counseling by my wife, I asked if I shouldn't also be going to counseling. Number 2 said, no, it doesn't involve you. Until a few months later, when number 2 asked for a divorce because she has lived her life as her parents' child, my wife, and the kid's mother, and she needed to find herself. Shortly after the divorce, son joined Army Air, jumping out of perfectly good airplanes during the Gulf crisis. Today, he is married to a medical doc and has wrapped up a remodeling business and is the father of 2 children, one an ideal student writer and an ADHD energetic naturalist. Shortly after the divorce, daughter and friend who were visiting a nearby naval base delivered her own daughter days after her 17th birthday. She finished high school and college and had her second child at 35 and is a project manager for a credit card company. The first grandee, forgive me, served several tours as a Marine in intelligence in dangerous places where they can't tell you where they're at, and is currently a defense contractor today to be married next month. Stage 3 is the post-family, career is flattened, retirement is on the horizon. So it's time to consider, what do I need in a partner? What do I have to offer a partner? I need someone who knows herself, self-reliant, sociable, affectionate, and appreciative. So what do I have to offer? Had a good education, good job with a good company. I'm healthy and physically active, friendly, faithful, and dependable. Doesn't that sound like the ideal pet? So after 6 months of asking for the divorce, number 2 said it was okay for me to start dating. She asked me not to prior to that. So here I am at a Chicago single dance. After a 20-year marriage, very strange situation, very unfamiliar place. Sat down, talked to a guy. Rita came and sat next to me. After dancing with the other women at the table, danced with her, and we left together. Rita was self-reliant, a mother of 2 young adults, former Catholic, as am I, in a good job with a good Chicago company, was married twice to unreliable partners, has been dating and dancing for a couple of years. So what did I need? Let me remind you. Someone who knows herself, self-reliant, sociable, affectionate, and appreciative after 2 unreliable partners. The first date, we biked on Lake Michigan. Second date, I took her to my new UU church. 14 months later, we were married. Now, 30 years later, we are celebrating the day with you at UUCC for 20 years. As Carol mentioned, I've served on membership, stewardship, was a personnel committee, 1 year of RE, congregational care, and up until COVID, ushering. I am an agnostic humanist who believes that spirit is a feeling one has, such as when you're singing in the shower, or dragging yourself away from a bad game of bridge or golf. One earns that feeling or spirit by what one does in the here and now. Here are other things that I give my heart to. In the field of health, I've been a hospice volunteer, providing respite care for grieving caregivers. I'm currently involved with Compassion and Choice, which is primarily an advocate organization for physician aid in dying. I'm active supporter of Medicare for All because Medicare processes of claims is one-tenth the expense that private insurers cost. So why pay a middleman that increases complexity and costs? And an example, I was shocked to read that United Healthcare's profit in the first quarter of 2020 was $5 billion. That could have been healthcare, but it's going to private insurance companies. In the education area, I've served as a board member with the League of Women Voters, Charlotte Mecklenburg, and been co-chair of the education team for a number of years. John Lee, our member, currently serves on the board and is a co-chair of education. North Carolina is among the lowest states based on percent of GDP for the state that goes to education. North Carolina is currently pre-spending $10 million a year of public money to private schools. It's called Opportunity Scholarships. And the private schools do not have teacher background checks or recognized curriculums. Many of them are run by parents, are religiously oriented, and leading universities don't recognize them. We know there's an election coming up, and being a member of the League of Women Voters, I encourage you to go to Vote 411 website. For there you'll get to see your own registration information and the candidates that are on the ballots, that are on your ballots. I found this amazing, all North Carolina candidates have been invited to answer a couple key questions in their own words that are posted on Vote 411. And I was delighted to find out that we have just about 50% response rate this year. Last year was 38%, or the last election was 38%. I've also been involved with justice, the theme of justice. And our very own Ann Wood had revitalized the Charlotte branch of ACLU, which met at our church. And I served on the board till North Carolina ACLU decided to replace the chapter with an employee. And I don't know the reason. You may not know Mary Clens, but early in my arriving in Charlotte, she mentored me in the Mixed Income Housing Coalition, which was my beginning of community organization, which led to the League of Women Voters and the ACLU. And our own member, Barbara Conrad, continues that effort on behalf of the UUCC. Member Karen Bringle has been involved in what had been Better Angels, is now called Braver Angels. And I have organized a Charlotte workshop of Better Angels, or Braver Angels, which is an organization that's intent is to bring political blues and political reds to better understand each other, not to convert anyone, but to better understand each other's positions. And I was able to do that, including the blues, because every Friday morning, along with Ron Macaroni, we attend Ed Driggs, what we call coffee, Ed's Coffee. And that is populated by about 20 to 25, mostly conservatives. Lastly, I am serving on the board of the Citizens Review Board. And people might not realize that the whole intent of the Citizens Review Board, which has been around about 10 years, is to, when a citizen complains about the way they were treated by an officer, then the citizen will be informed what, if any, disciplinary actions are taken against the officer. And if they feel it was inadequate, then they can file a complaint with the Citizens Review Board. And of 95 cases over the 10 years, there was one case that the board was tied. Keith Lamont Scott was tied. And there was one case, the most recent case that I was involved in, that it was a unanimous decision against the police chief. All the other 93 cases have fully supported the police chief. And while the former police chief, Keith Pupney, had supported the request by Citizens Review Board to have subpoena power, and the reason that's important is because witnesses are very reluctant to want to be a witness against the police. So we're after that. And while he would support it, but not requiring a police officer to appear, and the police officer involved has always appeared except for the very last case. And the chief, Johnny Jennings, has said that he takes the same position regarding subpoena power, but he has also said, when asked, that the former chief had said he's for de-escalation, but when a gun is involved, it's a game changer. And that has been taken to be interpreted that de-escalation is no longer an issue. I'm pleased to say, when asked of Chief Jennings, he said he would not see that as a reason. A gun would not be a reason to stop de-escalation. While the legality of police shooting is accepted when a gun is involved by the citizen, it's based on justification. I believe the public, and certainly the Citizens Review Board, of which I'm a member, is also concerned whether or not it is preventable, which is an entirely different issue than legality. And if you have any questions, I'll take a look at that. And I thank you again for your time this morning. I'll see if I can find if there's any questions. How did you transition from a Catholic to a humanist? Interestingly, I'm going to leave that up. I was at Catholic University my first year out of high school, and my parents divorced. And while I had been going to an absolutely lovely little recreation of a cave sanctuary, it's in the lower level of the, I have to stop and think. It's not the national, it's a National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception is the name of it. That's on the campus of Catholic University of America. I had decided that I didn't believe all the things that I had been taught. And my own two children were baptized in a Lutheran church, although that's another story. And it was only after the divorce that I discovered Unitarian Universalism, which I knew of because as a teenager, I had dated Unitarians and Universalists. It was at a time before the merger. I particularly appreciate words on policing. Any more you can say about this? No, there's nothing more I can say about policing. I think to have, in order to get on the board, you have to be nominated by a city councilman. Julie Eisel nominated me. You have to have attended is it a year of training, at least 39 hours of training, 13 weeks, 3 hours a night of attending what police work is all about. And you come out of there very sympathetic to the police. Work on social justice. What do you think inspired you to do this work? Actually, at one point I had it in my notes. I believe my Catholic training had a lot to do with it. And certainly we all know compassion, equity, and justice in the second step of our 7 steps. So I've always been a big fan of our 7 principles. When people ask me about Unitarian Universals, I start with the first one and follow up with the second one, because I think, even though when I first read them, I thought, well, doesn't all religions respect dignity and worth of all people? And it didn't take too long for me to say, well, they might say it, but they don't act it. Do you get conflict when you try to help Dems and Republicans understand one another? My experience is most Republicans don't want to understand Dems. As one, I play with the golfers that Rich Green knows as well. One said, if I wanted to know what the progressives think, all I need to do is watch MSNBC. Fortunately, it was the Friday morning group. I was able to get 7 political blues to come, and being a member of the League of Women Voters and Unitarian Universalists, having 7 progressives is not an issue. But unfortunately, because of COVID, we don't have any personal meetings. And I think maybe Karen and down in Gastonia might be trying to do a Zoom, but I can't imagine how that works. But it's very effective. I'll tell you, it's very effective based on the feedback. Basilica of the National Shrine, Immaculate Conception. My high school graduation baccalaureate mass took place there way back in 1982. It's well worth visiting. Rita was impressed when in the lower level, there are so many different shrines and chapels and things, and that everyone that was from another country, the statues had the reflection of the inhabitants of that country. And she said, that's not right. I think that's all that I see in the chat. If there's nothing else, I'll turn it back to Carol.
Okay. Thank you, Tom, very much. We really appreciate you sharing a lot of your life journey with us, and it was very interesting to hear all the many volunteer things you do for our community.
There's a key word.
and for the Charlotte area as well. And so thank you very much for presenting your credo.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you all.
And thanks to everyone for attending. We'll see you next month on the 4th Sunday of the month. Okay, bye-bye.